Hello, everyone. Welcome to our national webinar where we will be learning how to create our own astronomy masterpieces. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes. Come on in and introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know who you are and where you're joining from. We're so excited that you're all here today, and I'm sure you're all really excited. If you got your materials kits in the mail like I did, I'm sure you're really excited to start using them and learn from our expert speakers who are here today. My name is Amanda Sullivan, Senior Program Developer with the National Girls Collaborative Project. And before we get started, just a few little logistics. We ask that you remain muted. But this is going to be a very interactive webinar. You'll have a chance to meet with facilitators in breakout groups. You'll have opportunities to share in the chat. You'll have opportunities to unmute and ask questions. But just for the purpose of sound and our recording, unless we're having those interactive moments, we do ask that you remain muted and instead use the chat like you're all doing to ask your questions, share your comments, and introduce yourselves. Auto-generated captions are available if you need them. And I'm also joined by my colleague, Candid Mack, who you'll see a lot in the chat, sharing links, sharing resources. And if you have any technical questions or concerns, Candid can help you out with those as well. So if this is your first time joining us for an NGCP national webinar, welcome. I'm so thrilled that you're here with us. I'll share just a little bit of background on who we are and what we do, and then I will introduce you to today's wonderful speakers. The vision of the National Girls Collaborative Project, as you can see on screen here, is to support and create STEM experiences that are as diverse as the world that we live in. And our three goals center around connecting, creating, and collaborating with our network. So we work to build and sustain a network of advocates to provide equitable and inclusive STEM opportunities. We also work to catalyze equity in STEM from research to practice by providing actionable knowledge that transforms the STEM experience. And we also hope to increase our own collective impact by strengthening our organizational effectiveness. We hope actually that you'll join us for more national webinars. We offer them monthly on a variety of topics related to STEM education, gender equity, and more. And so we'll put a link in the chat for our website and how you can find some of these upcoming events. We have a monthly newsletter, which is the first place where you can hear about our resources, any research reports, national events, and more. And our website is a great place where you can find all sorts of resources, blog posts, statistics, and more related to girls and women in STEM. And now, the reason why you're all here today, you're excited, I'm sure, as I am, to learn how you can create your own astronomy masterpiece to inspire and engage. And to teach us how we can do that, we have two wonderful speakers that we're so thrilled that you're here sharing your time with us today. And I want to say a few quick words about you both before I turn it over to you. We're joined by Ms. Mary Dussault, who is the Learning Designer and Program Manager in the Science Education Department at the Center for Astrophysics, Harvard and Smithsonian, where she works with a talented team of educators, scientists, and media and technology developers. She spent her career researching and developing science learning experiences for a variety of settings. And she focuses on translating educational research into practice. So using what we know about how people learn, what motivates STEM interests and identity to design powerful and effective learning experiences. We're going to learn so much from Mary today. We're also joined by Dr. Martha Irene Saladino, who is the Education and Outreach Scientist at the Space Telescope Institute. Martha Irene obtained her PhD in astrophysics at Radboud University in the Netherlands, where she developed numerical simulations of evolved sun-like double stars. Her passions are to make scientific content accessible to non-English speaking audiences, to engage underrepresented groups in science, and make visible visible the work of underrepresented groups in science and show the diversity of people in astronomy as a means to create role models. We are so thrilled to have Martha and Mary here with us today. They're going to be sharing a lot of great resources, and they would love to also hear from all of you. So after they present and they do all of their great work, we're going to be sharing a survey from them with all of you, and you'll get a $15 Amazon gift card just for taking that survey. So we really do encourage you to stay till the end of the presentation today and to take that survey and give them that feedback. And now, without any further ado, I will turn it over to Mary and Martha to share their screens and take over.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Thanks, Mary. So Amanda did a great work at introducing us. And so we can skip this slide, but I did see a question in the chat. Some people have not received their material yet. So if you registered before July 26th, maybe it's still in the mail, probably it's coming one of these days. But if you do not receive it this week, please let us know and we can send it again. Okay, so today we have with us some other people who are going to help us moderate some discussions during this session. These are Dr. Ruth Hudas, Erica Wright, Caroline Slavinsky, and Alexander Kodnor. All of them are part of NASA's Universe of Learning. We are all based at different institutes across the US, but they are all here with us, and you will be perhaps able to interact with them directly so you can ask the questions that you would like to ask them later today. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so before we jump into this webinar, I want to ask all of you, you can write in the chat what you are hoping to learn from today's webinar. I'm going to give you a minute to write down, and maybe we can read a few answers. What are you excited to learn today? What are you hoping to learn today? Okay, here it is. My space science is week, so anything. More about telescopes, an innovative way to engage learners in STEM. More about science, engaging conversations with kids. To learn about your organization, it's new to me. Okay, this is awesome. We're going to do our best to answer all of these questions. And if we don't manage, please let us know. We would love to engage with you. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? So before we jump into what is Girls Team Ahead with NASA and MicroObservatory, I need to tell you, I need to take a step back. So if we can go to the next slide, please. I'm going to start by talking about what NASA's Universe of Learning is. NASA's Universe of Learning is an integrated astrophysics, STEM learning, and literacy program funded by NASA. So most of this webinar is going to be about two projects that live under the umbrella of NASA's Universe of Learning. One of them is Girls Steam Ahead with NASA, and the other one is the MicroObservatory. NASA's Universe of Learning has a direct connection to NASA science and missions, but also to NASA experts. So with NASA's Universe of Learning, with all these programs that live under its umbrella, we have different goals. But the end goal is to engage people in astrophysics. That's everything outside our solar system. So I am coordinating the program called Girls Steam Ahead with NASA, and Mary's coordinating the program called MicroObservatory. You're going to learn about those programs today, and we're going to tell you ideas on how you can put a program together that involves the resources that both Girls Steam Ahead with NASA and the MicroObservatory have put together. Can we go to the next slide, please? So what is Girls Steam Ahead with NASA? So the name might be a little bit confusing, but this program it was created to empower public libraries and community-based organizations to engage girls and their families in STEM. So how do we do this? Girls Steam Ahead with NASA has a product that is called a Program Facilitator Guide. With this guide, we make sure that you as facilitators have all the tools to plan an event about astrophysics, to engage girls mainly. That is our main audience, but that does not mean that our resources cannot be used for other types of audiences. In this program facilitator guide, we cover a variety of topics in astrophysics, such as the different types of light that exist, how do we communicate with satellites, space telescopes. We also have a recipe about celebrating women in STEM that includes escape room, for example. We have another recipe about the life cycle of stars, and we're currently working on a new program theme about exoplanets. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now, each one of these program themes that I mentioned in this program facilitator guide have a variety of resources for you. So we understand that explaining some topic in astrophysics can be sometimes challenging. And because of that, we have a list of activities and resources that are both pencil-based or paper and pencil-based or computer-based that you can use with your audiences. We also provide some content, some background content for you as facilitators so you can lead an event. And we also have sample event scenarios. In these sample event scenarios, basically, we tell you how to put together a program that can be 60 minutes long or 90 minutes long about a topic. We tell you, okay, in the first 5 minutes, you will introduce this topic by showing, for example, this video. In the next minutes, we are going to do a group activity, and so on. We also understand that not everybody learns in the same way, and that's why we also have a section with tips and adaptations. When we give you tips on how you can address different topics with younger audiences or with advanced audiences, or also with people that need that have some special needs. Can we go to the next slide, please? So one of the program themes, as I mentioned, is about how do we communicate with space satellites and how do we process the data that they send us and what do we do with this data? So this is what this webinar is about. Today, we're going to learn how we can transform pixels into images and how we can create a beautiful astronomical images like those that many NASA missions produce. And for that, we have Mary Dussault here, who's going to tell us about it. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Mary. Thank you. Oh, okay, there's a question for you. Did you know any of these resources? And if yes, please let us know in the chat. If not, also let us know.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Martha Irene, for the introduction, and to you, Amanda, to National Girls Collaborative Project for hosting these great webinars. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to talk to all your registrants here. And for those of you who did not get the little kit of materials, no worries. We'll get the full registration list and make sure that everyone gets the small little envelope later. So I'm going to talk today about how you can use MicroObservatory, which is a network of real telescopes that you can control over the internet, to implement a Girls STEAM Ahead program. And really, we like to think of the use of MicroObservatory as using the astronomer's toolbox for the 21st century, because of course, telescopes like the Hubble Space Telescope, telescopes in space, astronomers no longer put their eyes up to the eyepiece of a telescope, and you certainly can't do that to one in space. But it's also true that we remotely control telescopes on the ground, and your learners can do that with the MicroObservatory Telescope Network. So the way to integrate this into the facilitators guides that Martha Irene just talked about is really around the topics of astronomical images, digital data, and image processing. So pictured on the screen here on the right is one of the MicroObservatory telescopes. They're about 3 feet tall, and this one is sited in South America, in Chile, in fact, and we have some sited in Arizona and 2 on the roof here in Cambridge, where I am located. Now, if you use the Girls STEAM Ahead program guide with also using the telescopes, here's what we think you you could achieve in terms of learning outcomes for your learners. They'd have a better understanding of these incredible images that come back from NASA, because they themselves will have taken and processed images in the same way that NASA astronomers and space scientists do. They'll gain some new astronomy knowledge depending on how you have them research the targets that they're investigating with the telescopes. They'll have an opportunity to practice their own scientific skills, particularly data visualization. We'll talk about that. As they do science, while they learn scientific concepts, they'll have an opportunity, especially over time, to build their science identity, which I know is a goal of everyone probably on this webinar. So a word before we actually, I'm going to have you all take an image right now yourself, but just before we do that, just to make the comparison between the telescope you're about to use and the one that the Hubble Space Telescope. They're both reflecting telescopes. They both focus light from objects in the sky onto a digital detector. And when we say they're reflecting telescopes, the light comes in the opening at the front. The Hubble Space Telescope has an 8-foot opening at the front. It can capture a lot of light. MicroObservatory has a little 6-inch opening at the front. It can't capture as much light, but a lot more light than our little 1/4-inch eyes can collect. There's a mirror, a 6-inch mirror at the back of the MicroObservatory, and an 8-foot mirror at the back of Hubble. So we're going to right now send a command to the MicroObservatory telescopes. For that, I'm hoping you all have, which people do, have your phone close at hand, because you're going to do this with your phone and using the MicroObservatory webpage. It's a little hard to navigate if you're watching this on a device, the webinar, and then also using a website. So you can use that QR code to get to the target selection page of MicroObservatory. And later on, if you want to try this, you would use microobservatory.org is the URL or website to go to access the MicroObservatory for Everyone portal, or the Observing with NASA portal. So if you've held up your phone to the QR code, you should get yourself to a page that looks like the left side of my slide here, with a whole set of targets of objects in the sky that you can select from. And a couple things I want you to notice about our target list. There's typically 30 to 40 different targets in the sky. MicroObservatory, you can ask for these again and again every night. Our telescope system is going to take that image tonight and email it to you tomorrow after it's captured the image. And you'll notice that the target page is set up the same way the universe is set up. There's objects in the solar system to start with, and then objects a little further away in our galaxy. Stars and nebula are the next batch of targets, and then galaxies and beyond. The objects in stars and nebula are within our own Milky Way galaxy, and then you can take pictures of galaxies beyond our Milky Way galaxy. What I'd like to suggest is that we all use, if you can click on the Observe button for the Lagoon Nebula on your phone, you will come to a screen that allows you to set the telescope settings, which looks like the image on the right side of my screen here. So if you're having trouble, I'm going to go back to the QR code really quickly. Have your phones up. Okay. And again, microobservatory.org, clicking on observing MicroObservatory for Everyone, and then Control Telescope will get you to this same screen. So we're going to select Lagoon Nebula, which is a star-forming region. A nebula is a cloudy region of gas and dust. And it's kind of a place where stars are born. And you'll notice you have 3 settings: a field of view, exposure time, and filter selection. And here we're going to, I want to kind of coach you, what are you doing on each of these settings? And the field of view, for the Lagoon Nebula, you only have one choice, so you'll have to select that. For some other objects like the moon or other objects, you have the choice to select a zoomed in view or a wide view. And the field of view of a telescope is really telling you how much of a piece of the sky is going to be contained in your image. What's the field of view of your image? And so it's measured in degrees. If you were to put 2 strings from your eye to your pinky finger held out at arm's length, with 1 string at the top of your fingernail and 1 string at the bottom of your fingernail, the angle of those strings would be 1 degree. And if you look at the sky, your pinky fingernail will be the same size of the sky as your image coming back from our MicroObservatory telescopes. So choose normal view. Then your next selection is to choose exposure time. The whole purpose of a telescope is to collect light. A lot of people think that the main purpose of a telescope is to magnify things, but it turns out the most important feature, 2 important features of telescopes, one of them is how big the aperture, the opening in the mirror is, because that determines how much light it can collect. And then the longer the exposure time, the more light you can collect. So the Lagoon Nebula is a pretty faint object. So you want to collect a lot of light. So you can choose any of these exposure times, but the website will actually coach you through the correct the correct exposure time. If you choose, if anyone wants to type in what they've discovered about the correct exposure time to choose, you can type it in the chat. But for the Lagoon Nebula, hopefully, yes, 60 seconds. That's right, exactly. Very good. Yeah, and 30 seconds is going to be underexposed. You won't get enough light to get a very good image. So now the third setting for the telescope is the filter wheel. And it turns out the Hubble Space Telescope has a filter wheel as well. And by using colored filters, you can help determine what colors are actually being emitted by the object in the sky. Because it turns out that for many visible light telescopes, like MicroObservatory and like Hubble, the detector, the digital detector where the light is ultimately focused, doesn't actually see in color. It can't tell whether a blue photon of light or a red photon of light is hitting it. It can only tell how many photons of light are hitting in a particular place. So we use filters to separate out the red from the green from the blue light. Now, if you select no filter at all the light comes from the telescope, from the object in the sky, from the Lagoon Nebula and the stars that are in it. So you'll get the most amount of light that way. With each of these filters, they will only let the red, green, or blue. And I'll say that it's sometimes for convenience, you want to choose multiple filters because you really want to get 3 images, 1 through the red, 1 through the green, and 1 through the blue. And so right now, I would encourage you all to either select no filter or multiple filters. And you can come back and keep taking more images as this webinar goes along. But once you do that, you have now set up your telescope settings. And again, the telescope's going to go take that image tonight, and we're going to email you a link to the image that the telescope takes. So there's a little form to collect your email address and a few other things there. Right now, you don't have to divulge any part. We do need your email address, but the other stuff can be prefer not to say or state where you don't live. So, but unfortunately, those are currently not optional. So fill those out. Once you click submit, you have sent your command to take an image of the Lagoon Nebula to our MicroObservatory telescopes. And tonight, the telescopes in Arizona and the ones on the roof here are going to swing into action and find the Lagoon Nebula and take images through the filters. Susan, I'm going to answer your question about the filter in just a moment. I want to make sure everybody gets to that submission, gets to submit. All right. So about that question, is red filter filtering everything red, or is it, what does that mean? I want you all to get out, but don't hold them up to your eye. Don't look through them yet. I want you to get out your colored filters that came with your little materials kit. And I want you to, in particular, get the red filter out. And I want you to make a prediction. I have an image on the screen here of, let's call it the RGB nebula, the red, green, blue nebula. Imagine this is an object in the sky and it's actually emitting a lot of red from the top region, a lot of green from the bottom right region, and a lot of blue from the bottom left region. I want you to make a prediction. When you hold up the red filter and look at this image, what do you think is going to happen? Yuli, you weren't supposed to do that yet. Hang on, I'm making a prediction. Okay, the prediction is, what do you think you'll see? Will all three circles turn red? Do we think the red circle will disappear? Do we think maybe the green circle will turn brown? A lot of people have their ideas about color from pigments of paint. And so as we learn about color, this is a really good way to increase our understanding of how light works. So if anyone has a prediction they want to venture into the chat, do that. I can tell you some of the predictions that are often made by students. I'll predict, okay, everything's going to turn red. Or sometimes the red circle will disappear and the other ones will show up. Or the red one will be red, the blue circle will turn purple, and the green circle will turn some other color. Yeah, so we have some of those predictions in the chat as well. Finally, I would like you to put to look through at the screen through your red filter. And if anyone wants to type, I want to make sure you're seeing what I think you're seeing. Does anyone want to describe in the chat what you're seeing? Yeah, only the red circle. And if you think about what a filter does, remember the filter lets through the color that it is. So any part of my webinar screen and your computer screen that is emitting red, the red photons get through the filter. But the green part of the screen is not emitting any red. So the green gets absorbed by the filter, it gets blocked. The blue gets blocked. But notice that my white words on the screen, you still see the white words because white light has red photons in it. And so the red photons are getting through. Similarly, if you hold up the green, the red circle will disappear because the green filter blocks the red light, but lets the green light through. And you notice that you also see a little bit of that blue circle. So there's a little bit, this filter doesn't fully block the blue light. It lets through a little blue light as well as most of the green light. Yeah, good. Awesome. Okay. So it's time for a breakout room. And I think we can go with six. We'll have 6 breakout rooms. And we're going to send everybody off into a breakout room to think about these 3 questions. What questions do you have? You've taken an image through a telescope and you've used some filters. How might you engage your own learners and their existing knowledge? Like, they bring knowledge about images through their phones. They bring knowledge about astronomy that might be cultural or everyday knowledge. They bring their own interest. How would you tap their interest in using this telescope and this tool? And how might you facilitate taking images? There is this issue of taking needing email addresses. And so that's sometimes a facilitator's has to be clever about how to do that. So I think, Amanda, you're going to send us off into 6 breakout rooms, and our facilitators are going to help field the discussion. We'll come back in 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm sending everyone now. And I'm going to pause the recording during the breakout session.
Welcome back. We had some good discussion in my breakout room. I want to ask my co-facilitators here if any questions came up that we need to provide an answer to that didn't get answered in the breakout room, or any innovative ideas for using things. Yeah, Carolyn.
I have one question that came up, was just specifically about imparting knowledge to the students and the participants about what different wavelengths of light imply regarding chemistry, for example. Specifically, she was talking about oxygen as being a possible indicator of life, and that's such a huge area of interest for everybody. So just wanted to pass that along to you to make sure that that is something that's included somewhere in the voluminous resources on the training for JS9.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, the right, the meaning of colors from space is something that learners definitely want to know once they start taking images using different filters. And certainly, depending on the quality of your filters and the degree to which you can narrow down the wavelength that you are observing, astronomers could get information about from how the temperature of a particular glowing star or cluster of stars to the actual composition of things like nebulas glowing in space, because nebulas are actually made of a lot of hydrogen, and hydrogen tends to glow kind of a pinkish reddish color. And so you'll find that when you do 3-color image processing with your red, green, and blue images, many of these star-forming regions, like the Lagoon Nebula and the Orion Nebula, will look reddish and have some greenish because those stars, especially dying stars, emit lots of oxygen as they die. So yes, Carolyn, good point. Any others?
Yeah, I did I was trying to find my unmute button. Found it. So we had some great discussion about like who might be a good audience for this, and sharing it with both learners and possibly with teachers who might reach learners. And one of the questions we had come up, which I didn't get a chance to answer because the breakout rooms ended, but I think we will touch upon that a little more, is how do you keep the learners' interests if you only see them, like, say, once a week? They get all excited and they ask for their images and they get them the next day, but you don't see them for a week later. And I was going to say, well, perhaps we can look at the archived images, but Mary, I will let you go on into that because I think we are talking about that next, right?
That's exactly what we're going to do next is when you take an image with the telescopes, they have to go off and aim at that target and take the data, and you won't get it till the next day. But there is a way to, in the same session where you have all your learners take a telescope image, to then also learn what to do with the image when it comes to you. And that's what we'll do next. But just before I show you what to do, I want to make sure we're, yeah, okay, I think. Okay. All right, well, let me share what to do with the telescope image when it comes back. Here's what we'll do. So I'm going to share my screen for that. Excellent. And what does data from a telescope look like? Now, you might think it looks like whatever you took an image of, but in fact, the data that comes back from a telescope is not visual. It's a bunch of numbers in a file, in a digital file. And those numbers are really the measurements that the digital detector took about how much light fell on every part of the digital detector. Now, I have an image on screen, which you would have gotten in your kit as well. It's an activity from the Pixels to Images activity in the Girls Steam Ahead Facilitator Guide. This is actually a simplified, kind of a low resolution example of data from the Chandra X-ray telescope. And you notice, I don't know if anyone can anyone find the pixel that had the most X-ray photons hit it? What's the number? See if you can figure that out, where that is on this, and you can type that in the chat if you can figure out the number of the brightest part of this image. We have 237. All right. I didn't even see that. I thought it was 216, but oh yes, 237. I see it. Yes, excellent. Good. So you need a computer to take those numbers and visualize them. That's what digital image processing is. And so in the activity that's in the Girls Steam Ahead Guide, this is a great activity to accompany getting real images back from the MicroObservatory telescope. When a computer processes a digital file, it's essentially doing paint by number activity. It's assigning, you choose the color palette you want to use, and then assign different colors to different pixel values, different numbers, levels of brightness. So in this situation here, we have pixels less than 40 would be assigned black. The pixels you mentioned with 237 would be assigned yellow. And here is the simplified image from the Chandra telescope. And this is a dying star shell cast off. It's an object called Cassiopeia A. This would be a low resolution image where you can see the structure. There's an interior shell and kind of an exterior shell. And that's right. If the grid becomes finer with the number, that's such a great question, and each little square be different. So in that case, let's take the 237, that might become 16 more square pixels, and maybe the average of them all would be 237, but you might have a 200 one and a 101 and a 300 pixel, right? So you're getting finer and finer resolution the more pixels you have. And that's why, we get these phones and we want the, megapixel resolution, because you get lots of detail when you have better resolution. Okay. So that's an activity to help understand image processing. Now we're going to actually do some image processing. And again, I'm going to ask you to get out your phones. We're going to use a tool that's it's not perfectly optimized for a smartphone, but we're working on that this next year. But it's definitely possible to do. So what I want to make sure you do is use your phone in landscape mode for the QR code I'm about to give you. And we're gonna actually do some image processing of the Lagoon Nebula that you just took an image with. And then if we have time, we're actually gonna do some image processing with CAS-A. Okay, so Amanda, if you can keep me kind of maybe at some point, let me know where we are with how much time left in the whole webinar here. I've kind of lost my, yeah, good. Okay, so here's the QR code. You're gonna get to that on your phone, and I will also show you on the screen. So if you want to follow along on the screen, I'll be demonstrating what to do. But if you want to do it yourself, you can also be trying to do the processing on your phone. So, and again, getting your phone in landscape mode, you'll have something. I'm going to escape here and get my web browser open. Okay, here we go. And here we are. So you should get on a page that looks like this. It may actually have this little tutorial square on it, but I'm going to close that out, and you can close it out because I'm going to be your tutorial here. All right. So here's the raw data of an image of the Lagoon Nebula. And you'll notice it doesn't look like much. What do you see here? Can anyone describe kind of what you see here? What do you see on the screen? And this is a good question to ask learners when they get the raw image back. What do they see, to be close observers and be very literal about what you see? Giving a little wait time here. Yeah, okay, white dots. Yes, that is what you see. White dots. So if I and some lines too. Yeah, we have some weird kind of lines here. And actually, let me hang on. If people want to go to the URL here, there you go. And if I use the zoom, control and zoom in 3 times, 1, zoom in, 2, 3, I can see some of those. I can see that those white dots are made of individual pixels. Right now I'm starting to see the pixels. And if I put my finger, if I have my phone or my cursor over those, right over here, I can see a different value. Okay. And I'm actually going to open a tool that I don't want you to bother doing on your phone, something called a pixel table. And so this is giving me the raw data behind the image, all those numbers, just like that Chandra image. Here I have a pixel value of 4095, here of 2429, right? And so each pixel on the image, a different amount of light fell, and I'll zoom back out to the full image. Yeah, so you can tell that some of these white dots seem brighter than the others. Some seem bigger. The dot is spread out over more pixels. And this streak here, let me zoom. The streak here is actually not an artifact of the object in space, but this is an issue. The detector of MicroObservatory can only detect up to the value, enough photons to reach the value of 4095 here. Once more light keeps falling, if it's a really bright object, our exposure time for the Lagoon Nebula, we had a 60-second exposure time. We were trying to collect a lot of light, but this particular star is so bright, it's saturating, it's overexposed, and the light, the signal in the digital detector starts slipping down the detector. And so you're seeing what's sometimes called saturation or kind of bleeding of the signal down the detector. So that's what that stripe is there. Okay, so I'm going to give you two simple steps that work with most images to bring out, to enhance what's hidden in the raw data. The first step is in your, it's in step 2 of your Uncovering the Cosmos handout, and it's adjust the scale. And so on your phone, you want to look for the scale menu, and you'll see that right now the adjustment is linear, which is what that Chandra activity was set up as. Up 0 to 40 pixels was black, 40 to 80 pixels, the next 40 pixel values was orange, the next 40 pixel values, that's linear. And if you choose a log, that mathematical manipulation of those numbers enhances the dim part of the image. So step 1 is to choose log scaling. And you already see, oh, there's a lot more detail I can see here. I start to see some dim stuff. Step 2 is to set the low brightness limit that right here says 179. And the way to determine what you want to set it at is to put your finger in the darkest part of the corner of the image, if you're on your phone, or my cursor, and I'm getting a pixel value. Does anybody want to type in the chat what the pixel value of, if you have your finger on the dark part in the corner of the image? Or this is a very tiny on your screen, I'm sure. I don't know if you can see the pixel value on my screen. Can anybody see what it is? 3, yeah, great. Amalia, 344. So I'm going to set the low brightness at 344, 344. I'm typing that right in. And then I'm going to hit return. And I want you to be looking at my screen when I hit return, because these are the 2 steps that really bring it out. 1, 2, 3. All right. I've set the background. Anything lower pixel value than 344 has turned black, is black. And so that really starts, and now I can use these sliders and really start to bring out, if I bring the high brightness down, I'm making more and more pixel values white. So I'm bringing out, I'm doing this paint by number. Now, okay, now I've enhanced the image. I've brought out the add color. Remember, this is paint by number. And in JS9, there's a color menu. And so here you have lots of choices. You get to be creative and create your own masterpiece here. And so you can make all the pixels shades of green, or you can use some of these other color maps, which are basically the same thing done with the Chandra activity that I showed earlier. So I happen to really like the plasma color palette, so which is between yellow, orange, and purple, right? So it's assigning, and you can even see down here which pixel values are being assigned which colors. So it's just like that Chandra activity. Okay. Now, you can do lots of manipulation of your image and explore the menu items. You aren't going to break anything here. We're not going to do it now, but all these image filters create all kinds of interesting effects. You can try all the different color palettes. You can manipulate the contrast. Oh, now there's a kind of too much, right? I've adjusted too much. Now, why might they make different choices? It depends what they're trying to observe and study in the object that this is an image of. So if I was interested, there's something interesting going on here. I can kind of barely see it. And if I really wanted to bring that out, it might be that I would use, now I'm starting to see there's some little shadow in there, right? I might make different choices. I've lost my detail way out here, but I have more detail in the area I'm looking. So again, the choices, there's not a best way to process an image. The choices you make are based on what you're interested in observing and as well as aesthetics. So being a data visualizer, aesthetics are very important. You know, creating color palettes that you think are pleasing and are going to get people to be really interested in your image. That's a really great thing to do as well. So the last thing that you want to do is you want to save your image. And so for that, under the image menu, and you can do this on your phone as well, you want to save the image as either a PNG or a JPEG. This FITS format is actually the raw data format of astronomical images. And so your phone won't read that, only the JS9 tool and astronomical image processors. So you definitely want to save it as a PNG. And I actually have done that. And now I think if I bring it over to my screen, you'll see, here's the image I saved, right? And you could print this out on an inkjet printer. It looks great on a little glossy 4x6. They're great images. You can create a web page if that's something you do in your program. There's lots of things to do with the images students create. So it looks like, any questions at this point before I show you a little more complicated maneuver with JS9? Okay, we are going to go on then to actually processing a NASA data, which is also in the archived images. So I'm back at this page. And if you're on your phone or you're on a URL, you can just reload the page. This image will disappear when you reload the page. So make sure you save it if you have it. And the page will start over fresh with that raw image of the Lagoon Nebula. I'm actually going to close that image here and show you that over here under the archived images, this is where that question that came up in the chat earlier and that Rutu asked, okay, I don't have my program till next week. What can I do to engage kids in image processing now? The archived images has a whole list of objects, including that Lagoon Nebula that we just processed, and a bunch of moon, other objects. So you can practice image processing skills on these archived images before the learner's own images come back from the telescopes. But what I want to show you now is using the same tools and the same concepts that we just learned about how to enhance raw data to bring out details with the subject of our last NASA's astrophoto challenge, which was an object called Cassiopeia A. or Cas A, and it's a supernova remnant. It's the remains of a star that exploded long ago. So it's the star's guts kind of spread out on the sky, and it's a really energetic phenomenon. So it emits lots of X-rays. And so the Chandra X-ray telescope took this data. So again, this is not data that's red, green, or blue, because red, green, and blue is visible light. This is data that is low energy X-rays, medium energy X-rays, and high energy X-rays. That correspond. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing NASA scientists do. Red light is actually lower energy than blue light. So we're going to assign the low energy X-rays to red, medium energy X-rays to green, and high energy X-rays to blue. And I'll show you how to do that right now. Okay, so I want you to, on your phone, you can get to that page again, or I'll just show you, demonstrate here. I want you to click on the low energy, Cas A Chandra, low energy. Yes, so yeah, how to find out what each of these things are. That's actually a really good point. We need to provide that. We'll have to put that together. Thank you for suggesting that. Because some of the objects are much clearer. So that's a great suggestion. So we're going to open Cas A Chandra low energy. When you open that up, you're going to start to see, you can see this is kind of a shell of material. And if you look really closely, you can see the little dot that is the star, the remains of the star that exploded. You have to look really closely. Can you find it? But if we go back to our uncovering the cosmos, what's that first step that I want to do to really enhance the dim stuff that's in this image? And you remember what that was? There's log scaling. Yeah, scale. There you go. Yes, make it log. So I'm going to do that. Log. Oh my goodness. Okay, there's lots of stuff hidden in the pixel values of this image. If I open up that pixel table, right, there's lots of data hidden in this image. Okay, so remember, so this was the low image, and we're going to colorize this one red because it was low energy. So click on red. And then I'm going to also have you open up the Cas A Chandra medium energy. So we'll open up that. Again, the raw data, you can't see much. We're going to hit log scale. And actually, there was that third step too, which I forgot to do the last time, which is if I put my cursor in and I see the pixel value in the darkest part is like 1 or 2, I could set this low brightness to 2. And I feel like I get a little more definition there. That's kind of nice. And I could bring this down. Ooh, yeah. All right. So I'm going to do that. And this is medium energy. So what color are we going to color the medium energy in the red, green, blue scheme? Green. Let's go green. All right. Now let's choose Cas A Chandra high energy. So high energy X-rays. Again, there's even less signal here in the high energy region. There's just a very little bit there, so we need to enhance that with the log scaling. I'm gonna try and see if I can make that. Whoa, that's okay. That's a little, it seems too much. There we go. So you kind of, right, I'm kind of using my visual judgment as to what's giving me the most information here. And I'm going to color that blue. So now under my list, actually I need to get rid of that Lagoon Nebula, right? I have 3 images open. Cassia low energy that I colored red, medium energy that I colored blue, and high energy, colored green, and high energy that I colored blue. So remember, these are digital images, so you can tell the telescope to add all the numbers together. And the control to do that, to add red plus green plus blue, is RGB mode. And what that does is, rather than having the 3 images separate, it adds them together, blends them together. So are you ready? 1, 2, 3, RGB mode. Ah, amazing. Right now, we get a sense of the complexity of this object in space. We see that the high energy stuff, the stuff that's emitting the high energy X-rays, which we've colored blue, is really around the edges. See this little edge? That's where that stuff is. We can see that the middle of the supernova remnant has kind of the most medium energy here, and there you could kind of see where this is all distributed. You can even see, oh, there's some jets spurting out of this thing. I don't know if you see those, but those are in the medium X-ray. They aren't the green or blue. So this is the same process that NASA scientists and data visualizers used. You can do it yourself. You can save those images and print them out, make websites with them, create a display in your community center or in your library, create a display of student images. That's a great thing to do. Create astropoetry, write captions around them. There's lots of things to do with once students know how to make these images. All right, I'm going to stop there. Let me get us back to our slide presentation here. And we're going to take time to break out here. So do we have time for that, Amanda? I just want to check on my time check here.
We do. Yeah, we have time to do another 5-minute breakout room.
Okay.
So let me get those set up.
Perfect. So we'll co-facilitators will have 6 breakout rooms. We'll send people into them, and the things to discuss, although people might have other things they want to discuss, but my ideas for the discussion were, again, what questions have come up in doing this? How might you encourage participants to do some sense making around the images? And clearly folks have talked about you yourself need more information about the targets to help your learners make sense of the images. How could you facilitate images, learners sharing their images with peers, community, others? Are there ways you might do that? Okay. I am going to go into breakout room 1 here. See you soon. Great. Well, that felt a little fast, but there we do. So for any of my co-facilitators, are there questions or ideas that came up that you think would benefit from sharing with the rest of the group here?
Yeah, we had a question in our group that I think everybody could benefit from around, they're all going to get emails tomorrow with their images, and how do they, and how do they open those up in JS9 when they get those images tomorrow?
Yes. So I'm actually going to share my screen again briefly here while we're, and note that in the JS9 webpage, you see these video tutorials. I'm going to open that up. And I'm going to stop it from playing. Stop. But, stop. Anyway, as you scroll down, you'll notice all these tutorials: how to request an image, how to open a FITS image, how to process a FITS image. And we just processed one. And the how to open a FITS image will tell you what to do with the email that comes back and how to open it in the JS9 tool. So yeah, great question. Thanks, Erica. Other discussion items that came up?
I had one.
Yes.
The connection between art and poetry. A lot of people talked about different ways of displaying the images, but also just having some kind of connection with poetry and other classes that can relate to it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna actually I'm gonna share my screen again. Sorry about that. Because we actually have an activity in the projects and activities section of the MicroObservatory website. It's available from that JS9 page. And one of the activities is around astropoetry and how to facilitate close looking. Actually, let me click on that. Here it is, astropoetry and astropoetry in Spanish. So there's download, and so it encourages close looking by students to kind of brainstorm words that describe the image that they've seen and create astropoetry out of it. So that's a really great thing to do. And so that activity is on here. Someone else asked about in the chat here, sorry, about all the tools under the analysis menu and what everything means. So there's more tutorials again in this MicroObservatory website. And in those video tutorials about all those. We actually don't have a guide for every control that's in the JS9 tool. That's probably another resource we should create. Is that we kind of leave it up to experimentation with them to kind of describe what it is those tools do. We have tutorials for the ones you use most and that you would use most commonly, but not for every. There are lots more ways to enhance and analyze and make measurements on your images than we have tutorials for. So I think that's a really good suggestion. We should make a guide that goes through every menu item in the JS9 tool. Really good idea. Yeah. Other things that are coming up?
So I did want to say, given like some of the thoughts that came up in this breakout room and in the previous one about, oh, we want to maybe create an activity. How do we connect this? Maybe we have some time to fill and some not. I want to reemphasize the programming cookbook that I believe Martha talked about at the beginning. It's been an hour and a half, so I don't actually remember what we spoke about at the beginning. But this guide has these scenarios that you can, basically, we have all our universe of learning resources categorized by topic. So for example, there is a guide on, this is the guide on data and image processing. And we have multiple scenarios going, hey, if you have 60 minutes, if you have 90 minutes, if you have 30 minutes, these are ways you could start out your event. This is a hands-on activity you could do, which often ends up being this MicroObservatory activity, and there are others. And then there are, possible follow-up questions, possible follow-up activities to send participants home with. And we have, we're talking about data and image processing here, but we also have I think 3 or 4 other topics as well. So these are created to help you, our wonderful facilitators, figure out how to put these events together. And some of the activities even have example scripts of things you could say, if you are unsure of how to introduce a concept or something to your learners.
Yeah. 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 So there are activities to combine with using the telescopes and processing images that are like the paint by number activity. Actually, in fact, am I sharing the screen with you right now? Right? I can, yes.
Yes.
So I actually wanted to show a image from the NGCP site of students doing that activity, where they took the 11 by 11 pixel layout of that Chandra CAS-A low resolution image, and they each created their own color map of, okay, I'm going to let 0 to 40 pixel values be blue, and I'm going to let 40 to 80 be pink, and I'm going to, so they did their own computer coding processing of the image manually, and that goes very well with that JS9 activity that we just did. Yeah. Awesome.
Mary, there was a question that was asked in my breakout room, and I did not know how to answer. And it was if they could download the pixel table.
Download the pixel table. Of any image? Yeah, that's a little hard to do from the fit. That's such a good question. So you're thinking about, from if I were to kind of look at this Lagoon Nebula image, and I open up the pixel table, and I have this, and I'm in here, and I have this row of numbers. You're asking, can I download that? I'm afraid there's not really a way to get at that in the raw data that's easy for someone. Yeah, there are a couple different activities in the GSON cookbook that that use a pixel table of Chandra data, and then there's also an activity in which students can make up their own pixel table and try, so they can communicate with friends. They make up their own image, they code it into numbers, and then they give the numbers to friends and see if you can figure out what that is. Right. So there's a bunch of different ways to do that. Yeah, great. Okay.
May I just make some sort of disclaimer here? Currently, if you go to the website, I put on the chat the website where you can download this facilitator's guide. You will find it as Program Cookbook. We are currently rebranding it. The new name is Program Facilitator Guide. So you will see that in the next few months, things will be updated.
Okay. Great. Well, so I wanted to tell you about an upcoming opportunity to maybe plan an event or a workshop around the activities that you just learned. Twice a year, NASA's Universe of Learning hosts an astrophoto challenge, NASA's astrophoto challenge. And each season, and they're in the summer and the winter, we highlight a different object in space, and there's materials to learn about that object in space. And and to process NASA data and to submit your processed images to the challenge. And we tend to recognize at least one participant from every group that submits an image. So there's on the submission form, there's a little line, did you do this in a group? What's the name of your group? And if they mention the name of your group, someone from your group will be recognized in the standout entries for NASA's Astrophoto Challenge. The next season starts in December. We just finished the summer season where the target was Cassiopeia A, which we just did. And in fact, if you wanted to go to the current Astrophoto Challenge, the data for Cassiopeia A is in there, and there's more telescopes than just Chandra. There's videos about that. You can still work with images from the Cassiopeia A challenge. You just won't be able to submit them to the submission form. So so that's a great, so again, the period of the next Astrophoto Challenge, December to February, you might start planning an event now and have your participants submit their image or create a display or something like that. Yeah, if you save an image on your phone, it does end up in your files or your downloads, and then you have to open that and then save it to your photos. All right. If there's no other suggestions about planning an event around these activities or no other information from our Girls STEAM Ahead experts from NASA's Universe of Learning.
I had a quick thought if we
Yeah.
have like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So if you are planning an event and, maybe using Cassiopeia A, which we saw today, we do have other resources that are linked on that Astrophoto page that could be fun to use. I'm holding here a 3D print of Cass. If you have access, I know some libraries and museums might have access to a 3D printer. These files are all public, and many of the objects that we do for these Astrophoto challenges do end up having versions like this. And this is one example, but there will be other really cool resources that you can tie in as well.
Yes, so the NASA's Astrophoto Challenge, if you just Google that or on the microobservatory.org site, there'll be a link right to that. You can learn more about Cassiopeia A, and that will take you to a Universe of Learning website where there are all kinds of information and materials. Here's the 3D print. So it's all in that, here, all these ways of learning about the object that is the target of the NASA's Astrophoto Challenge.
I just want to thank everyone. I know we're getting at time and people are falling off slowly, but I didn't want to run out of time to make sure I thanked Mary, Martha, and all of the facilitators. I wanted to make sure I chimed in and got that in there. Thank you this was so much fun to do a digital and hands-on component. I know lots of folks have so many ideas of how they want to incorporate all of this in the programs that they run. So we sincerely thank you for your time today, taking us through this. We popped your post-webinar survey in the chat. My email in for anyone. I know questions are still coming in. If there's questions you want me to pass along to Mary and Martha and the team, feel free to email me or contact us at NGCP, and we'll pass that along. And we are just so appreciative of all of you being here today. And we have another Girls STEAM Ahead with NASA webinar coming up this fall. So we hope you'll join us for that one too. And thank you all so much for being here and bringing your participation into all of the breakout groups and discussions. Thank you, Mary, Martha, and all of you for sharing this with us.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. I had a great time with these discussions. Thanks so much, and great ideas for us to take back and make improvements. Really appreciate that.